rock music and early like R&B and soul and blues and early hip hop and all those genres of music, like at their rawest form, they're all sort of they give me the same feeling, I guess. They're just like the raw animal kind of flavor that I think guys like us and a lot of other guys and gals connect to. So like all those kinds of like so many others, I think I never really tried to do like a soul record. Not that there's anything wrong with trying to do that, or like a folk record.
It's a you record.
It's just the stuff that I love. I haven't done my hip hop record yet. I don't know that anybody would want that, but yeah, that's the kind of music I listen to here at home, and that turns me on. That kind of um, it's that it's that life affirming music, whether the words are sad or joyous or something. It's just that the dirty, real, raw deal. That's what's always kind of gotten me out of bed.
Well, I think what sets you apart from a lot of people shoehorned into this Americana silo that we're in is that you're a little more vulnerable and a little more open to having your heart on your sleeve, than a lot of folks. You've gone through,
I'm emo,
uh,
baby.
yeah, well, maybe it's the most punk rock thing about you in a way, just coming out with the angst in front, not like revealing it later on. And you've gone through addiction problems, substance abuse stuff, trying to get through that. And tell me a little bit about how you worked through a really bad bout of creative despair and emptiness to get this Strawberry Mansion record out.
I was gonna say which time. This time.
Yeah.
Um, Lordy, where do I begin? Um, well, the journey begins not to release creativity. That was a gift that I wasn't expecting and was in awe of as it showed up. The the process for me, I was out your way for about 8 months, and yeah, I've had certainly my share of addiction issues, mental health sort of stuff, as so many can relate to. I'm sure. And I quit booze and drugs like a little over 7 years ago. I quit it on my birthday, August 20th. And um, well, I guess in a nutshell, I did that on my own, and I didn't seek any kind of support or help or anything like that. I sort of locked myself in a room. There was no lock on the door, so I didn't literally lock it, but I stayed in a room. I didn't drink. I went through the exercising of that. Is that what you call that? I went through,
Exorcising. Yeah.
yeah, however you say that, which it really did feel like at the time. I mean, it was, coming off of booze, when you drink a lot of booze, it's a it's a beast, and it's like a literal beast, and it felt like a literal beast that was fighting to stay in, and I was fighting to push it out. And I did that, and enjoyed a few years of sobriety, which was miraculous for me because I've sort of depended on something from a fairly early age. From the first time that I drank like a 6 pack of Yingling in Becky Horowitz's basement in
Thanks for nothing, Becky.
no, Becky was my high school sweetheart and still my dear darling friend.
You're amazing, Becky.
Yeah, it wasn't Becky's fault. It wasn't Becky's fault. Um, no, I just knew that it was going to be something that I was going to lean on, and that it brought me such relief because there in a lot of us, there's some sort of discomfort within and anxiousness inside, a feeling of being different, which I've enjoyed throughout my life, but it's also comes with its challenges. And I think at an early age, when I discovered certain substances, it made me feel, it quieted the mind, and it softened the heart. And that's still how I like to feel. There's a lot going on. I don't even know that there's a lot going on up there. It's just there's a lot of noise a lot of the time. So, and I'm going to forget what the initial question is, as I tend to do because I use a lot of words. But yeah, I quit that all that stuff, and then life came a knocking at my door, and there was some. If I'm being real about it, it was things that to this day I really have to look out for. It's like putting my talk about emo. Here's some emo for you. It's putting my self-worth or my identity into outside things. So that came in the form of my career in music, and what a certain record or project was doing, which we folks like us have very little control of, in my opinion. You just do the truest work that one can, and you release it to the world, and come what may. And it came in the form of a romantic relationship that I couldn't figure out, and that spun me out. And I went to a bearded professional to discuss anxiety, and I was
The beard is key for credibility.
the beard is key, though I have been to some incredible women um, therapists these days. That's been the shift. Now I try to talk to the healthcare professionals that are women. I don't know that I'm trying to. That's just been the case, and I've enjoyed it. But yeah, he had a beard, and it was gray, and I bet he's good at what he does. But I went for a certain reason, and I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew I was playing with fire, and I was, and I got prescribed Xanax. Um, and before too long, I was bullshitting that doctor to get more. I'm off on tour. I left it. Did we lose sound?
No, I just started to re-record on my end. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, before too long, I was just kind of like playing games with that guy. I'm off on tour. I left my prescription. Then before too long, I was out on the streets there in Los Angeles, finding guys to get various things. So it's like a real fast. Uh, it's there's not a lot of room between, like, here's a prescription, um, take as needed or something, to me being out on the street, going to places I don't need to be going, and that was gnarly. So when I got home to Nashville right before COVID hit, I did seek some help. I went to a place for a little bit, and I've been doing some other things to kind of support this lifestyle, so that give me a better chance to live a life free of that stuff, even when I feel uncomfortable, or I get hit with something that we all get hit with. In that, I think, because when I was going through this relapse with prescription medication, I was trying like a maniac to finish a record out in California with my boy
Right.
Malachi. And I was just slamming my head against the wall, hoping a door would be created, that we could walk through and get to the end of that road. That didn't happen. I was driving him nuts, driving myself nuts. couldn't finish this thing. And really, what I think I needed and we needed was just a step away. And anyway, I came back home and I got myself together a little bit. And then a tornado hit Nashville, right down the street here, and that was a pretty intense event. And then COVID came, so there was like a force slowing down and simplification, and the time, and almost a cosmic force for me, which feels a little weird to say because I don't mean to undermine or diminish the horrors that go with the situations that we're all dealing with. For
Right.
me, it enabled me to slow my ass down and to focus on something other than, interestingly, it enabled me to focus on something other than music or my career or whatever, or a relationship. And in that,
Right.
opened up a whole bunch of music um, and now a record. I didn't write a single one of these songs thinking I was going to go into a studio, make a record, and talk to you or anybody, you know, about it. I was just doing it because they were there all of a sudden, and they hadn't been there for a long time.
Well, you open the record with A Mighty Soul that has this uh, snapshot of our time, right? Where, you know, the world is going to come and blow the house down. First a tornado, then a plague, you know? And um, it is amazing how this time has been a blessing for some people with mental illness and has been too much to bear for some other people. You know, we've lost certain people during this time,
Yeah,
like Justin Townes Earl, you know, where
a lot of
not
folks.
not being able to share your art and be around other people, it's too much sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. I It's why I feel a little strange to say, though. I mean, we're talking about each other's personal stuff, so it's like that is true for me personally. That there's been some gifts in it, but for a lot of people that deal with these issues, the last thing that you're supposed to do is to like isolate and
Right.
live in one's own head. And then you get a pandemic where it's like y'all got to isolate, and the
Right.
pressures of it all, financially, mentally, emotionally. I mean, the shit's been crazy, and it's crazy for everybody, and it's devastating what it's done to so many people. I've really tried, some days somewhat successfully, other days not successfully, but to like not buy into all of the noise outside and just try to really trust, for me, that the best I can do as one guy over here is to like, I, I don't know. I guess when I find myself joining all of the noise, it just becomes maddening. And there's a lot of shit. If I spend time on my phone, there's just a lot of negativity and a lot of opinions. And for a sensitive soul, or for anybody, it just shakes your ass up. And my ass is already shaken up. I think I popped out shooken up. So I need to really like kind of focus and try to like try to find some calm, you know, because it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And I know I do, before any pandemic or tornado or political bullshit.
Right. Well, I think for many of us, you know, the music is the medicine, and we're blessed to have that gift where we can process all this crazy stimuli through our music, through lyrics, and through uh, you know, melodies that can kind of speak the pain and fear and joy and whatever is coming through us better than uh, anything else can. You know, and you have this thing where you put a note in your pocket that says, when you're freaking the fuck out, just play, you know?
Yeah, well, that
And I
came
love
from,
that.
well, I didn't love it. That came
Yeah.
from, I loved it when it became a song, you know, but that came from when I got back to town. I started seeing this amazing therapist woman, and we were talking about fears and about sobriety and about creativity. And you know, I dealt with this the first time I got sober, which was, I believe, an irrational fear, but tell that to the person that's freaking out about it, which was like, I don't know if I'm gonna write again. I haven't written in a year because I was getting myself twisted with these pills, and now I got clean and I haven't written. And who am I when I'm not writing? Even though I believe intellectually or
Yeah.
philosophically that one is always right and you're always picking up the pieces, it doesn't need to be the tangible song or painting or pancake or something right then and there. Which, that's how I feel a lot of times. It's like, if I'm not getting the whole pie, I feel like the pie is gonna elude me or something.
Your identity is this
Yes, but it can't
creator.
be.
And if you don't create, who are you? It's like
Exactly.
a
Right.
god losing his power.
Right. Who am I? Who am I if I'm not completing a song, if I'm not on tour, if I'm not in pursuit of the love of my life, um, if I'm not dealing with that question and that discomfort through drugs or alcohol. So when you kind of start to peel that shit back and confront, okay, well, maybe I don't know who I am entirely. And I think most of us are seeking to find ourselves throughout this experience of life that we're living.
Yeah.
Um, it's a beautiful, but it's a terrifying thing to do. And then you might feel, as I think I do, well, I'm a grown ass man. How don't I know this? Why in some ways am I still a little baby boy in there, you know? Um, which doesn't really help the process. But yeah, this therapist told me slow it down. And the next time she's like, what do you ever go and play and write music when because I was talking about when anxiety manifests itself into like a physical, you know, like creature
Yeah.
where it's hard to put into words, but I know you probably understand. And it's just like, am I dying? Is everything attacking? You know, it's just very it's a suffocating feeling. And she was like, "Why do you ever play music when you're going through that?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't think I do. Not specific, especially not as like some sort of exercise, because writing music in that way or the guitar itself doesn't feel like my friend. You know, it kind of seems like it's judging from the corner or something." And she suggested, well, maybe just pick it up and and just play without without an agenda, I suppose.
Mm.
Which is a heck of a thing. I've been thinking a lot lately about all of this stuff and like the mind not being just one thing. Maybe I read this somewhere, but the mind, we associate the mind being in the brain. And I feel like for me, to put it simply, I guess, um, there's the mind that is in my brain, and then there's the mind that is of like the soul or of the spirit.
Right.
And a lot of times with creativity or just in regular life, the mind that's in the brain can get overactive. And that's where like the critic, the fear, the judgment, all of the stuff that I think snuffs out the spirit mind. So to figure out ways to write without drugs or alcohol, um, in in flow of like this the spirit mind, if you will, that isn't feeding the fear that I think everybody feels if they're willing to be honest about it. Like no songwriter or artist that I've ever met in my life, doesn't matter where they are in their career or what, you know, how great or whatever they are,
Yeah.
any intimate conversation I've ever had with a homie or somebody that's willing to be real relates to getting into that like fear and despair mode. And when that takes over, it's not an expansive thing, it's a suffocating vibe. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but
Well, opening your record, Strawberry Mansion, with A Mighty Soul, I think is fitting in that it's a snapshot of our time, but also I think captures the thing that is at the heart of a lot of these songs, which is the hope within the hopelessness,
yeah,
right? That there is our greater self within ourself that is struggling, that is hurting, but the best part of ourselves is still there. Whether or not the tornado is going to blow our town up or a plague is going to come through and kill our friends and family, we can still be the best part of ourselves through that.
the spirit survives. And if it, as soon as I believe that it does, and I don't know what the point is any longer. So I'm skeptical at times of a lot of things that I see and hear and feel, but I'm forever optimistic and hopeful that the spirit carries on.
Well, you dove right into the worst part of one of those moments in Panic Attack, right? You actually are describing how the walls are caving in, you feel small, and I feel it all, right? And you know, one of the things that the human brain is so good at is filtering out all the panic and craziness that can come in and make us completely broken. You know, we can't function if we see everything all the time. And yet, our modern culture, with the 24-hour news cycle and everything, we are being asked to process everything constantly and to have reactions and feelings and thoughts about everything. And sometimes you have to turn it all off somehow, you know. And you actually have this conversation with your therapist, like in the song, like it's a play, like it's a dialogue. Tell me about that song coming out.
Oh, that's the song that we're talking about, where the therapist suggested that I pick up a guitar in times of great distress and panic. Um, and I told her that I resented that idea, and that it made me,
How dare you?
well, it made me feel anxious in and of itself. Um, yeah, like assignments have always been a little tricky for me. So somebody to suggest that on a spiritual level this could help, or emotional level this could help, um, when I'm feeling uh, bad, it didn't seem like it didn't seem like a fun idea. But I think I wrote it down and I put it in my wallet or my pocket, and I just remembered that she had said that. Um, at the time that that song came out, I was in the throes of one of these anxious bouts, and I grabbed the guitar, and I had a friend here who was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I don't know what's wrong." She's like, "Why don't you just lay down?" I laid down. Um, shit sucks. And then the song started to play in my head, and I took the guitar, and it just sort of like spewed out. But it just spewed out exactly what was happening at that time. I had recently called a healthcare professional whom I wanted to speak with confidentially. I had been asked to fill out forms of, on a scale of 1 to 10, do I feel anxious and depressed and all that kind of stuff. So it was just uh, like a verbal kind of musical document of exactly what was transpiring in my world.
Well, I think for people who have never experienced a panic attack, it can seem like a foreign um, bout of hysteria that, you know, like, well, other sick people have it, but I would never know what that feels like. And I think the way you created the sound with Paul from the Avett Brothers and Matt Davidson from Twain, who you recorded with, it almost feels like a spaghetti western unfolding. You know, like
Yeah,
this epic tale of mental distress that I think a lot of people are having, especially this year for the first time. You know, there's a lot of
yeah.
people who
I
are
mean,
experiencing that, and it is
yeah,
big. It feels like this big, epic, cinematic, crushing experience.
yeah, it does indeed. And love and respect to Matt Twain Davidson for his. I think maybe he's playing like Morricone in his mind or something at all times. I don't know, but yeah, I hear you with the spaghetti western vibe. Um, Without a doubt, more people can relate to this sort of shit at the moment. I think people that maybe didn't themselves, uh, have experiences with addiction or mental health stuff are. It just seems across the board everybody's going through a lot. Some of us more than others, of course. You know, I'm talking because I'm putting out a record now a lot about my own experience, and I think it feels good a lot of the time to do it. And there is also this like, eh, because I still don't think that it's not a contest or a competition of what people deal with, but at the same time it's like, a lot of people are going through a lot more than anxiety or this or that. But I have to kind of remind myself that everybody too is going through that, regardless of what else they might be experiencing. And so I don't know, man. It's interesting to make a record and some songs that talk about this stuff, and then to go on uh, interviews and talk to people, and almost kind of relive where I was at with that stuff. And it's like, well, actually today was a pretty anxious day. I had to cancel 2 shows, or I did cancel 2 shows, which was very unpleasant to do. Here in Tennessee, we are leading the nation in COVID cases per capita. So
And yet they're still doing live stuff all over the place. Like Texas, people are sitting inside, watching shows. I'm like, how is that still a
I don't
thing
know.
that's possible?
It's possible, and it's left up to, I guess, the musicians if we want to do it or not. And I mean, this is what I was doing before we got on, was on the phone with my friend who's like running that venue, and you cancel a show, and that puts them under for that night, or those 2 nights, and the bartenders and the servers. And it's just like, am I affecting them more than I might potentially affect the small socially distanced crowd who's traveling in for it? I really don't know. I don't know what the right move is, but it's kind of broke my little heart today to come to
Well,
that.
before all this started happening, describe, a typical year for you. I mean, you play a lot of festivals. We've joined you on some stuff and
Yeah.
folk fests all over the world, and you've become sort of a I would say what is the word? It's like the Johnny Appleseed of the Roots Americana movement, where like people I think look forward to seeing you do what you do in a way that I think brings a lot of joy to folks. And I think there's a certain playfulness in the way that you dive into some really dark territory, and that's what my favorite songwriters do. John Prine, for example, where you can sort of say with a wink and a smile
Yeah.
that people are really going through some hard stuff, and we can all be better by sort of expressing that together and sharing the love that is in a room. But when we don't have a music festival or a room to share that love, um, my question is, how do you experience that connectedness now? Because we're talking over Zoom, obviously, and I love seeing your face, but it's not the same as
No,
you sitting in my living room here.
no, it's really not. How I've dealt with, I mean, I haven't uh, done it on purpose. I've just done it because it's just what I'm dealing with, what we're all dealing with. Um, for me, being able to write music during this time has been incredible. I wasn't expecting that I would have, written all these songs or made a record. So that has pretty thoroughly scratched an itch of just being creative and productive in that way. Um, the not being on tour all of the time has, how do I say this without just sounding so cheesy? It has helped me to it's helped me to try and connect with myself and some other things in this life that I have uh, kept at a distance for a
Right.
long time.
Like we
And
never have to deal with our own personal problems at home if we're never home, right?
no, and like we started this thing. I mean, it's easy to, when you do something your whole life, when some people go yay or nay or something based on the thing that you do, but whatever one does, our identities get very attached to that thing. And so I am really interested in, I hate the reasons for it. Of course, we all do. And at the same time, I'm also really interested in connecting to some of those things, and to peel back some of the layers and see what's there. And this situation has enabled me to sort of start some of that process. So I don't know. I mean, this canceling these shows really hurt more than me not being able to tour, because I felt like it was under my control whether to do it or to not do it. And so to cut something off like that is really fucking hard for me. And I'd probably make a way bigger deal about it to myself and
You
my.
don't want to feel like you're letting people down, you know.
No, I don't. I don't. And it's really hard for me to know what the right move to make is in this situation. I feel pretty strongly one way, and then I feel pretty strongly another way. But there's something about when it's what we're all dealing with. It's not like I am saying I need to find myself, so I'm going to take a year off the road or 5 years, which would be beautiful to do. I don't know that I would have done that though. So this situation kind of forcing me inside, literally, figuratively. There's a lot of creative work to be done that isn't just on guitar or an instrument, you know. And so yeah, I've been trying to find the connections where I can.
That song, "All Right to Hide" on the new record is sort of another snapshot of making the best of our shut-in existence, and it has this upbeat uh, sort of lilt to it. My wife was like, "Wait, is that a you got a friend in me from Toy Story? Is he like
Yeah, I've heard
referencing
that a
that?"
few times. So I don't know
And
if I really.
I'm like, wait a second. It's not, but I think there's the Randy Newman again, like the wink through the darkness thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to it and see if I owe him money. I don't know. I didn't. I mean,
He'll
Randy
be
Newman
okay
is
with
one
it.
of my all-time favorites. So you know, his music is constantly around. So it's possible. It wasn't intentional, Mr. Newman. But I do fucking love you. Uh, yeah, I mean that song was one of the first that I had written when music started to come back and songs started to come back into my life in the beginning of the quarantine and then the pandemic stuff. And at that point, those songs really felt like uh, they were just sort of on the nose, maybe too much on the nose, like quarantine jingles
Yeah.
almost. And then I felt like the songs kind of uh, opened up a little bit more. So I don't know. I'm okay with a few quarantine jingles, I guess.
Let's go back. So you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
What was your childhood like? And did you have a moment when you were a kid where you knew you were a bit different and a little more sensitive and more tuned in than other kids?
All of that except for the tuned in. I didn't know if I was more tuned in or more tuned out. I still don't. Um, yeah, I remember feeling different from a very early age, and I remember getting in trouble in school from a very early age. As soon as they put me in, I was getting kicked out. And
For doing what?
for being a little bastard, for I've never been good, and thank God for music. But I have never been good at sitting still for periods of time or eating lunch because a bell rings or something along those lines. So I don't know. I think when I was really little, you know, in like nursery school and kindergarten and all that, like I was getting in trouble and you know acting out. So there's something there. And then leading into like elementary school and on and on. Uh, what did they say? I think at the in the end of the public school they said that I was insubordinate, and that was the only thing I remember really learning from that public school was uh, the disciplinarian was very angry and called me insubordinate. You know that I was insubordinate. I was like, fuck, I don't know what that means. So I looked up what insubordinate means. And I think that's true. I was insubordinate. Um, but yeah, I for whatever reason, maybe it's the mind and the brain and the mind of the spirit kind of thing again. I felt like what I was being shown and taught and told was very limiting from a very early age, and I didn't
Mm.
trust it. And I didn't trust the people that were carrying that message. I didn't trust. I don't think I knew what a better way was, but I just didn't trust the lines in which we are told to walk, and that line is somehow, if you know how to do that particular path, that you're smart or you have a better chance at succeeding in life. I thought that it wasn't the case, and I let them know that I thought it wasn't the case, which they don't appreciate when you're 12, you know. um,
When
and
did music find you?
I just want to add that I still feel very strongly that that isn't that line is bullshit and limiting and limits the soul and the spirit. And I think it's a travesty and a tragedy for humans, because I think that there are so many colors and flavors and types of intelligences, and that we make it this one thing can really suffocate a child's heart. And that is, I ain't cool with that. It still makes me upset. But music, I just was always around. My mother is a great singer, not professional, but she could have been. Um, my grandparents, who were huge parts of my life and my brother's life, loved music, and they loved like swing jazz and the crooners and show tunes. So I was raised on uh, like Guys and Dolls, and then on my parents were split. On Sundays, my dad would come to pick my brother and I up, and we would listen to classic rock radio. So I had like, Bette Midler in one ear and John Lennon in the other ear. And then as I got excited about music and turned on by it, I would hear, I don't know who, say Bob Dylan, Otis Redding, two favorites of all time, and then get really interested in their stuff, start to listen
Yeah.
to the music that wasn't just on the radio, and then start to really look, um, got really excited about it and wanted to see who turned them on and who their inspirations were. Then Nirvana came, and that's how I learned to play guitar, was Polly. My cousin was
Mm.
in a punk band in New Jersey. He taught me how to play Polly, and Kurt was very generous with his influences and inspirations, and would really tout these bands that he loved. Daniel
The Meat
Johnston,
Puppets.
the Meat Puppets. Uh, I'd already started listening to Leadbelly because I loved early blues and folk music stuff, but Leadbelly, uh, the Vaselines, my God, a bunch of them. He loved Leonard Cohen, so I felt like I love Nirvana, still do, but within his uh, scope of like the stuff that really touched him and him being open about it, me reading every interview that Kurt Cobain, did,
Yeah.
there was a lot of worlds of all of this beautiful music that wasn't on the radio or MTV that I could start digging into.
Well,
And then
going
I had
back
an
to
older
your
brother who loved music, and he would turn me on to all kinds of, punk music and weirdo stuff.
going back to your 2008 self-titled record, which is where I first fell in love with your music. That song "Restless," I feel like, really captures this squirmy kid trying to figure out why his brain is a little bit different, why he can't
Mhm.
sit in one place, and you have that list of things you could blame it on. You could blame it on the teachers, you could blame it on my parents not being together. But really, it's about trying to figure out what it is to be free, what it is to feel free.
Yeah, and turns out, still looking for it. But it's interesting to to hear that from you. And sometimes I don't listen to my old music. Every once in a while, maybe I will, or I'll hear something. But it feels like it's predicted the future of me, my life in some
Mm-hmm.
way, or like, whoa, how did that come out when I was just a wee boy? And and yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we know some things from an early age, but it takes us a little while there's a difference between, I guess, knowing something intellectually and knowing it in some other part to start to do something about it.
What did your folks do for a living?
My mother, when I was growing up, she worked at the Jenkintown Cheese Shop, co-owned the Jenkintown Cheese Shop, and then put herself through law school when I was, I don't know, 14 or 15, became an attorney. And I don't know that she would say that she loved that decision. She just retired, so congrats to my mom. And my dad, my father and my grandfather owned a liquor store in New Jersey, a bar and a liquor store. Um, so a lot of early memories were playing like Pac-Man and pinball in that little stinky dive bar in Blackwood, New Jersey. Um, before the bar opened, and they were doing the numbers or whatever stuff like that. So yeah, that's what they did.
It's a lot of free booze just hanging around.
Yeah, I noticed as I got a little older, some of my first tastes were sneaking some gross bottles of, I don't know, Jägermeister or something into my little hippie woven bag that I bought at Spencer's Gift at the Oxford Valley Mall. But that's neither here nor there.
Do you remember the first song that you recorded that you felt like this is going to be a path for me, where you felt you could really do it for real?
The
Because no one decides that moment where they're like a professional musician. They just start
No,
doing it over and over again, and then it happens.
I think it feels a little strange to say. From a very early age, I was dreaming of doing some form of this before I played a guitar, before I wrote a song. So in my imagination, I was already living some form of it. And there was never a point that I can remember that it was like, okay, now I'm going to do this professionally, or this is what I want to do. I never had like another plan. Um, I was only interested in some kind of creative life, and I had no interest or idea of what any other kind of life would be. And in fact, I remember getting in trouble at one of the schools, and they're like, "Why must you be such a pain in the ass? You're like a nice guy." And I'm like, "It's just because none of this shit applies to me." And that was me being a little jerk, and I owe them an apology because they
I'm
really,
just waiting for my time to get out.
I'm just waiting for my time to get out. And by being here, you're strangling my ass. And that's how I felt. I didn't behave a lot of times, particularly that school. They were wonderful to me and I love them. But that's how it felt. And I just remember being like, I'm just going to do this thing. And, you'll see, I'll either be rich and famous, or, homeless and playing guitar like on a beach. But it's just one way or the other. What I didn't take into account, which is kind of funny, is that there's a lot of gray area in between the rich and
Yeah.
famous and the guy with the dreads on the beach playing Bob Marley or something. And yes, I, like a lot of us, find ourselves somewhere within those two worlds.
Well, you've had more success than a lot of folks in having your music placed in commercials and movies, and
Yeah.
uh, you know, which is a great way to actually make a living as an artist. But also, there's a little squeamishness between uh, the real art and angst that are in these songs, and then having a tune like "The Way We Move" be in a Microsoft Windows commercial, like touting software for the masses. And that song is about, embracing the crooked tale of your own
Yeah.
past, but here, buy some computers.
Right.
But that's how you make a living as an artist, and I think almost like
Well,
what was selling out back in the day is almost like applauded now, which is kind of
it can
interesting.
be. I mean, by the time I started getting offers like that, um, it I was sort of laughing, at least on the inside. I'm going to ask you, what you see some conflicting nature between the Microsoft commercial and what that song's about. Um, yeah, when all of that, I don't know why, but I have had a number of songs get placed on things like that. And when I was first starting to get those offers, I was very squeamish about it, and some I turned down. The way that I rationalized some of the other ones that maybe I wasn't totally sure of was
What did you
that
turn down? What was the weirdest one?
I turned down a McDonald's one in Canada, uh, probably for obvious reasons for a lot of people I don't know. But at the time, I've been a vegetarian since I'm 11 years old. So
Okay,
me
makes
singing,
sense.
me singing. At least I have a laptop, as you know. I don't know how to use it, but yeah, I definitely turned that one down, and there's been some others over the years, but there's been some that I was like, I really just don't know that this feels good to me. And then I remember a couple of things. One is that I have a band that stuck with me all of these years, and we make, for whatever reason, the money that we have um, is we've made more from movies and from licenses than we ever do from record sales, or being on the road for that matter, even though we're on the road a shit ton. So to help to support myself and my band of brothers, it's a nice shot in the arm, that's for sure. Um, and also, something I could never have foreseen is that people will turn up to the shows and be like, "Yo, I saw you. I heard you on whatever the TV show is," or I
Bones.
Bones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did I have a song on Bones?
apparently that's what it
Oh,
says.
okay. Yeah, on Bones. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe it's a funny part of it too. I haven't seen a lot of.
However they discover it, you know what? Like, as long as it's not Monsanto or something like that, it's like
That's
it's
that's
getting
kind of
people
where
in the door.
I've landed with it. Is as long as it's not something uh, that I really feel is fucking terrible, or even a little terrible. Um, I'm down for it, and it's brought a lot of people to the show. So I'm grateful for a lot of it, and also a little squeamish about some of it, if I'm just being honest. Yeah.
Well, I was one of those people who moved out to LA after college and was working in advertising, and I remember they would listen to me at the production company about like placing songs because they're like, well, we need something for this post office commercial. And I believe I got your song Say Yes into one of those.
Really.
I was like, this guy Langhorne Slim. I know he's got kind of a squeaky, weird voice, but like, just go with it. Like the like the message is great, and they like put it in there. And I
Oh,
think
really?
like like 12 years ago, I feel like a post office commercial came out with that song. It's like
I really
rando
appreciate that.
guys sitting in these dark offices. They're like, I mean, maybe I can help this guy out. I don't know, you
Yeah.
know, and that's the key is I think uh my band Dust Bowl Revival has always had a little trouble getting stuff uh into larger campaigns because we're so almost like overly specific. It's
Mm.
like this roots and horn soul folk mashup. uh and maybe the coolest thing that has happened, even though it wasn't like a huge amount of money, was they used our song for a Turner Classic Movies commercial
Nice.
where like they just used our song as like a music video with like Natalie Wood and Elizabeth Taylor and
That's
James
beautiful.
Stewart as like the people acting out the parts of the song, which was so weird, but also like such a cool film nerd thing. As
For
someone who
sure.
went to film school, I was like, well, I guess we don't have to do any music videos anymore. We'll
Yeah.
just have Natalie Wood
Yeah.
dancing to our music
Sorry.
on
Yeah, that's
TV.
awesome.
But the reaction of people seeing that was very mixed because that's a very um, elderly audience watching that, and
Right.
this was a very funky. modern soul kind of track, and they were like,
So you got some
how
negative
dare
feedback,
you, how dare you use this like salacious, you know, song
right?
about cheating
Right.
to like advertise these movies that we love so much. But other people were like, oh, this band's cool, I'll
This
come
is
to their
great
show now. And it was
for
like, great,
sure.
why not?
Yeah, it's interesting once the music goes beyond what our kind of immediate fan base is. Have noticed that as soon as something is a little bit more in the mainstream or out there, the reactions are like within my little bubble, it's a lot, it's like a little love fest, which is very nice. It's very warm and sweet. And then if I've done anything that gets out to more people and I'm foolish enough to look into what the reaction is, there's you know, people got a lot to say out there.
Do you ever read your bad reviews if you get them? Because I feel like I actually am more honored when someone is that upset by something that I've written, that they've really gone deeper than the people who are
Yeah,
just like, yeah, it's a great, folk Americana roots thing they got going on here. Whereas they really get under the song, and it pissed them off so much that you
it
would
really
try to
upsets them.
recreate some sort of lost era of music.
Yes. Well, I have. I don't enjoy it in the sadistic way that you seem to.
Maybe I'm a
No,
masochist.
I
Yeah.
don't. I don't like the way it makes me feel, and I don't really like the way that some of the good ones make me feel too. I don't understand a lot of reviews. I just don't understand. It's almost like they wrote down words and cut them up and put them in a hat, and then they're like, so I don't know. I don't get any kind of joy or good feeling from the bad ones, and I kind of told myself a long time ago, I don't want to feel so great about myself because somebody says I'm great, and I don't want to feel
Yeah.
shitty about myself because somebody says I'm shitty, and so I try to stay away from them. Now that I use my phone as my main computer and I do look at Twitter and Instagram and that crap, some of the things are just they're too close to not look at, and so I do see some things sometimes.
Yeah. What was a really nasty one? Come on, be
I haven't
masochistic
read
with
a
me.
nasty one yet about this one. This just give it a minute. This one just can't is still coming out. Um, well, similar to what you said, I remember the first time I read a terrible one. It was like right at the first EP. I think it was the first EP that I put out, and it was along the lines of what you were saying. You know, taking from this other music, but in a really shitty, fake ass way. And this guy
Yeah.
should never even pick up a guitar again. And his voice and his playing, and I had to go lay down. Hate to admit it, but like it shook me up, and I'm like, what? Nobody knows who I am. Why is this person take? If they hate it, why not just leave my ass alone?
Yeah.
um, but yeah, there's been a lot of bad ones over the years. I I don't recall them all. There's a local paper here in Nashville that I put out a record a couple times ago, and I don't look for the review, so I didn't see it myself. But I was living with a dear friend at the time, and I came home, and he's like, and he's just more grounded than I am, and he's got a sense of humor about all these things. He's a musician, a great musician, and he's like, "Damn, man, what did you do to the people over at the I think it's like Nashville scene or something?" And I was like, "What in the actual fuck are you talking about?" He's like,
Uh-huh.
"That review, brother." And I was like, "I don't know. I haven't seen it." He's like, "Oh." It was sort of like when a friend told me that an ex of mine was getting married or something.
Yeah.
Or I knew because they like followed them on Facebook or some shit. I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about." And he's like, "Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said anything." And I went and read it. And when it's a local thing too, it it stung a bit. Yeah. What can you do?
So you put out the record, "The Way We Move," with the band you called The Law at the time, and you have this stomping piano groove, especially to that song, which I love. But you can feel your voice sort of like fraying. You can almost feel the excess and um, the out there journeys that your brain is going into. And I think we tend to revel in the excess of others, from afar. I think that's something that is maybe the dark side of rock and roll, or music in general, is that we want our artists to be out of control and a little bit crazy, so we don't have to be.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it's just that we all have that in us. To see some sort of primitive expression, um, maybe it's something that we all recognize, but don't all uh, find a way to to express within ourselves. I don't know. It's interesting why we love to see somebody just, like Iggy Pop or something like that, on a stage, and that's something that so many of us can recognize, but not the kind of freak that most of us are willing to be.
Because The Spirit Moves, which came out in 2015, people were writing that was also a sobriety record, right? That was
Yeah,
like maybe the first time where you're like, I'm going to try to conquer this beast, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it all comes back around. But I think your story is one that a lot of people in our country are going through, where you're prescribed something to help you get through the pain and anxiety, and that actually becomes the new
Yeah, and
addiction.
I will say too, and I tried to do what I can, um, and I don't know what one can do. Um, that was a quote unquote sobriety record, and this is a quote unquote sobriety. Look, I got sober then, and that was a part of that story. So when people were talking to me, I was talking about it, and here we are some years later, and shit happened, and that's a part of it. So it's difficult for me not to discuss the truths with anybody that wants to talk to me
Yeah.
about what was going on. I don't mean to market myself as a sober singer, songwriter, man, or that this is a sobriety record. It just is. It's just a fucking fact that I went from where I was a year ago to coming home and getting clean, and then these songs came. So it just is part of the natural flow of it. I hope I don't have any more sobriety records. Put it to you like that.
Well, publicists, managers, labels, everyone has to find a way to like market
I
their
know,
artist,
and
right?
then we gotta get on the line and talk about it. And I know that,
Well,
and
I
I
mean, look,
respect what they do. And I'll just say, if I wasn't willing to play the game to some extent, then I wouldn't, right? I mean, I know that they're looking for, everybody has to look for an angle and a story. Um, it's tough when the angle or the story is some kind of shit like that, because you never want to feel like you're being dis, you're not being genuine and real about it, or that you're sort of like using. I had one interviewer once say to me, and I don't think I've been mean to too many interviewer people, but she said, "Why do you think that sobriety's become trendy in Americana music?" And I go, you gotta go fuck yourself." And it shook me, man. Um, but yeah, I guess all I know to do is just to try to talk about what's going on. You know, when
well,
somebody
but
wants to talk to me about what's going on.
I think you do a thing that, again, a lot of us songwriters are afraid to do, which is, again, to come straight out and say it, right?
Yeah,
The song that me and my wife always listen to on one of our playlists is, Life is Confusing. Life is confusing and people are insane, right? It seems so obvious and so dirty, almost like a thing, like, why would you say that as your main line of the chorus?
yeah,
But we come back around to the fact that, like, life is fucking confusing and people are insane, and it feels like a mantra for our times. And
yeah.
if we can just like be okay with that and just have it in the open, instead of shrouding everything in a sense of like, well, everything's going to get better, and we'll figure everything out. Like, maybe we won't.
Yeah, maybe we won't.
Maybe
Maybe
it's
we
okay
won't.
that things are confusing.
Maybe things are supposed to be confusing. Maybe we're not really in control of every fucking thing. So
Do you find that you've become more of a spiritual person? And I know there's a lot of stuff about faith and letting go in this new record, but do you find that you've embraced sort of a healthy respect for a higher power in your life?
yes, but it's I always have. I mean, I was raised a Jewish boy in a suburb of Philadelphia. Um, so I haven't known exactly what that looks like, but I have always felt energy, believed in energy, and believe in spirits, and things of that nature. Um, but yeah, for me, what I'm trying to do is to get out of myself more often than I once did, and surrender a little bit more, and trust a little bit more, just the flow of things, and um, not try to control as much.
Do you think you could remember the words to Morning Prayer, which is off your new record, a bit?
Mm.
Because I love that back and forth when you're like, I'm trying to surrender control, but I still want to run the show. And then I'm trying to let it go, because
Oh yeah.
that push and pull, I think, is at the heart of everything. We can't
Oh
let
yeah.
go
I've,
of
I've
everything
heard
if we
this.
want to be a creative uh, person. You want to be able to have your vision come to life. And that means being totally controlling about every aspect of things. And that is super stressful and not very healthy way to be a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean, that song was directly from a dear friend of mine who had sent me a prayer, which it says in the morning, and I was trying uh, to try that kind of prayer out. That's never been, I've never like gotten up in the morning and prayed, or before a meal and prayed or something like that. And I was trying to, but I couldn't feel entirely the words that were on the screen or the paper. So I tried to put the idea of it to that song to help me kind of gain contact.
Can you try reciting a bit of it like it's a poem, like in a church that you're doing? Because I feel like lyrics need to be appreciated in that way sometimes.
Did you say, can I do that?
Yeah.
I can. Do you want me to just play it, or you want me to say it?
I want you to say it first and then maybe play it.
Okay, well, the words are, what are the words? The words are, God, give me the strength today. I offer myself to thee. Um, from this bondage, set me free. Help me see the nature of my wrongs. In your grace, I will be strong. This old world is full of fear and greed. Love it is the door, and faith's the key. From this bondage, set me free. I offer myself to thee. And there's more.
I mean, it's pretty deep. Who do you have faith in? Like, who are you talking to in that song, you think?
Well, I don't have a name for it.
Or maybe
For
it's yourself. Maybe it's your mighty soul. Maybe it's like your best self.
it's the um, it's the collective spirit mind,
Mm.
not brain mind. It's look. I mean, for me, it's not. I still don't have a name for it, but it's not out of reach that there's a lot more than I understand, or even than I can see with my own eyes. But what I can see with my own eyes is pretty fucking spectacular. Um, and I got sitting on the little porch here, and I got birds chirping and the wind blowing through the trees, and all that might sound kind of cheesy, but that is like what the fuck is happening. I mean, I think taking the burden of complete control of whatever this is out of myself, and putting it into the flow of a greater energy is or trust in some sort of greater energy or collective energy is helpful for me.
Have you ever experienced a supernatural situation or occurrence?
Yes, I have. On psychedelics or off, because I've had both.
Well, maybe off because maybe that's a little more true in
Maybe,
that.
maybe not. Maybe certain things, and I'm not advocating them, or want to romanticize things. So, certain things maybe do lend you some access out of the confines of one's own mind. But let's get back to yeah, I've felt spirits around me since I'm a little kid. Yeah. Um, my I never kind of kicked the door down to the the sort of conditioned notion that everything is scary that I can't see, unfortunately. So when I do feel or hear something, um, I often get freaked out. Um,
Was there a
but yeah,
moment where you actually tried to speak with one of those spirits, like
no,
communicate directly?
I usually run. Like when I first bought my house, I was told that there was some, maybe some thing or things here, and then got here, and there was some banging on the walls and some different stuff, and who know, I don't know what that is exactly. There was also somebody that lived in the house for 30 years before I got here. Then the house sat empty, and then my weird ass moved in. So it could just be a shifting of energies that then creates some kind of audible action. I don't know. um, but yeah, more than seeing figures or something like that, I've just felt various things throughout my life, and hear sounds, and I'm not convinced as to what that is or what that isn't.
I would say that when I'm on stage and the band is really connected and there's a crowd that's with you, it's the best feeling in the world. It's about as close to heaven on earth, I think, that can exist. And it doesn't matter if it's, at the Newport Folk Fest or at someone's garage and people are just freaking out and having a great time. There's something about that one organism of humanity coming together that only music can do, you know?
Yes.
Was there a certain show or festival where you felt that the most?
I love that you say that that could be in a basement with 20 people, or on stage at Newport. Both I've felt that in both the smallest venues. um, I mean, from the early days, I used to play at this open mic in New York City at this place called the Sidewalk Cafe, and I just remember it was like 100 people crammed into this little room, just
Yeah.
waiting for your turn to play two songs, and getting up in that room and hearing like bottles, clinking, and people talking, and then the room going quiet, when you start to sing a song. Is experiences like that are still the most powerful ones that I could think of. But yeah, I mean, when you're on a stage like at Newport or something, and you have a bigger audience, and you have that collective higher thing happen, yeah, that's the closest to a religious experience as I've had as well.
And on the other side of it, we've all experienced possibly like the worst show ever, where you have food poisoning and yet you still have to go on. That's one of the things I think we all don't miss about being on the road is like pushing yourself beyond your physical limit.
Yeah, maybe some
Sometimes
people are forgetting that part of it.
we're like, and I'm embarrassed to say this at times, but there's been like shows where I actually feel like I'm gonna take a nap during a song, you know? I'm like, well, Liz is gonna take lead on this, so I'm just gonna play rhythm and you know,
Yeah,
I got my sunglasses on and no one can tell that I'm actually not on stage anymore
yeah.
because your
I mean, I've
muscle is
had
just leading you.
uh, to find some sort of, I don't know, because I've had the same feeling, but then I'm the guy that's like jumping around and singing the songs. So trying to find some kind of a feeling to pull through that.
Was there a
But
show where you were literally leaving your body while singing?
oh yeah, yeah, and I mean during this time where I was on all this prescription medicine, that was happening more than not. I mean, I was playing shows and just doing everything I could. It was an outer body experience, kind of looking down at myself, being like, "Oh my God, how the fuck are we gonna pull through this?" Um, not a good feeling. But I would say on any given tour, for as beautiful of a life in a lot of ways as playing music is, on any given yeah, you're pushing yourself, I think, physically and emotionally um, a lot, and you run your ass down. But just because your ass is run down, you still got people in Baltimore that are showing up ready to see a show. So
Baltimore would not be denied.
Baltimore will never be denied. Love Baltimore.
Is there a music town that you think is super underrated that you love playing in?
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
I do love Baltimore and playing music there.
Where do you play? The
Uh,
8x10 or what's the bigger
we
place? The
we
Black
play
Cat.
at a few places there, I think, but I always love the shows at oh, I'm drawing a blank. The Auto Bar. I think it's called the
Mm,
Auto. I love that
yeah.
place. It's still like a one of like the kind of grungy rock, dirty places that's still around that we play at, and I love the sound and how close everybody is. Yeah, it's great.
Once things get back on track, which hopefully they will after the vaccines get administered, is there a festival somewhere in the world that you wish you could play first?
Newport, I think, for a lot of us, right? I mean, Newport. That was that was hard to miss this year, and that's kind of where I feel there's a lot of love in that space and with all those people.
And they've done a great job of preserving the history of a lot of the music that we love, folk music, blues, and sort of having the umbrella be big enough to include all of it, you know, because I think that's the beautiful thing about whatever this Americana movement is that it includes or should include black music, soul, funk, blues, gospel
Absolutely.
music with folk music, country, rock and roll, because really it's like America's fucking music. And if
Absolutely.
you leave any of that out, it's not.
Well, a lot of that's been left out for a long time, and I feel as though we should expect to see more and more inclusion in the coming years.
All right, last but not least,
They let my Jew ass in there, so they.
hey, you know, one day I would love to go there. I've never actually
Oh,
been able to
really?
go to Newport.
Yeah, it's special, man.
Um, let's say you get to throw your own music festival. You could throw it any place in the world, any setting, and you get to book 5 artists, dead or alive. Who would they be
Oh God, I hate these
to
questions.
start?
Did you say to start?
Yeah, well, you know, the first 5 that you would book,
Like,
dead or
there's a
alive.
follow up to this? No.
We could go the entire lineup, but that would take too long.
Um, it's so tough because I overthink this shit, and there's so many that I love. I mean, Otis has been forever my favorite singer. So we'll just because we have to name names, we'll say Otis Redding. He'll be there. And all right, let's make this interesting. I want to see Otis Redding. I want to see okay. Let's get Otis. Let's get Clifton Chenier in there because I was just thinking about Clifton before we did this. We'll get Nina Simone. Nina will be there.
She'd be in mine, I think.
And then we'll get, oh, you said alive or dead. So now I feel like I gotta have some living ones. Well, one of my favorite bands of bands is this band, the Lost Bayou Ramblers. So I took a little road trip recently to New Orleans, and they were doing a live stream at DBA, and I got to go sit in there as they were filming it. And those guys make me happy as can be. So we'll put them in there, and then just to mix it up, like an early Minor Threat show. So like a Minor Threat show from the old 930 Club in the VHS tape that I used to have, like one of those performances. Okay. Nina Simone, then you get Clifton, Otis. Yeah, we'll start with that.
And where would the setting be?
Setting would be, how many people are coming to this thing?
As many as you want. It's your dream festival. Let your mind go wild.
Yeah, let's just bring it. You know, I'm in quarantine, man. Let's just bring them to the Pink House in Nashville backyard. You know,
great.
We'll do it here.
Keep it real intimate.
We'll keep it intimate.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you getting on the dial with me here, and
thank you.
Strawberry Mansion. It's coming out now, or it's already out, you know, depending on when this happens. What's your cat's name?
Mr. B, Mr. Beautiful.
All right.
Ouch.
And wait, what is the meaning behind Strawberry Mansion? Is that the pink house where you are?
No, but yes, but also my grandfathers, Jack and Sid, grew up in a neighborhood in Philadelphia called Strawberry Mansion, and they used to tell my brother and I all these stories about running around when they were kids. So I've sort of like deeply romanticized and mythologized, if that's a word, this place. And and you know, sometimes when the songs are coming, I kind of feel the spirits of those old men, and so that it just kind of lent itself somehow to these songs. But also, I do live in a house that's painted similarly to a strawberry.
All comes full circle.
All comes full circle.
Which song would you like to play for us, if that's possible?
Well, you want to do? Maybe I'll play the morning prayer song because we were talking about it. Should I do it here on?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, cool. Let me bring you in. This is good. I've got like a half bladder of urine, which is usually leads for the best performances.
Just a little bit of restless edge.
One must have a little bit of restless edge, I guess. Alrighty.
You have the whole house to yourself?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had housemates lived downstairs, and they took off. When music went away, they went away because they were here, you know, as making their money playing music in Nashville. So yes, it's just me and the kitty.
Well, thanks again for doing this, and
my pleasure.
Here he is now, Langhorne Slim, playing Morning Prayer.
God, give me the strength today. Offer myself to thee. From this bondage, set me free. Help me see the nature of my wrongs. In your grace I will be strong. This old world is full of fear and greed. Love it is the door and faith's the key. From this bondage set me free. Now offer myself to thee. God, with you I can be whole. If I surrender my control, do I still wanna run the show? I'm trying to let go. This old world is full of fear and greed. Love it is the door and faith's the key. Nothing is deserved, no guarantee. Uh-oh. I offer myself to thee. Oh, come on, kitty. Come on, puppy.
Cat literally just sat on the computer. That was kind of brilliant, actually.
That was brilliant. He's brilliant.
Ultimate power move.
It's perfect timing too. For my friends who suffer, for my mother, father, and brother, for a world down on its knees, I pray for thee. For the restless and the wild, for the broken, tamed, defiled, for all of us who crave more than we need, I pray for thee. And I offer myself to thee. Mr. B wants up in this.
That was awesome. Well, thanks again, man.
Thank you, brother.
I hope we are able to meet out on the great wide open
I
sooner
sure
rather
hope
than
so.
later.
I sure hope so, man. Stay safe, be
Yeah,
well,
man.
and thanks so much, brother.
Did you? All right. So you have your voice memo thing.
Yeah, should I end it?
Yeah, I'm gonna end mine. Okay. So, I guess see if you can. I don't know if it will send in an email or something.
Yeah, I
Be a
can
big file, but
in an email. Yep. And what email should I send it to?
show on the road pod at gmail.com.
Show on the road pod at Gmail.
The irony being that we haven't really been on the road for a while, but you know.
Okay, the show on the road. Okay. All right, I think that went through.
All right. Thank you so much, man. This will
Thank
probably
you.
come out, end of January or early February, somewhere around the record.
All right, cool. It'll come out when the time is right.
Keep doing your thing, man. We appreciate you.
Back at you, brother. Thanks so much.
All right, man. We'll see you
Well,
soon.
happy holidays, man. Peace.
You too.
Later.